It's time, America.
Good evening, everybody. Let me ask you to help me out. So my microphone says it's working, and yet there is no lighting on it. There's supposed to be a green light. Give me some feedback and let me know if you can hear me. It seems to be working, but for some reason there's supposed to be a green light here. There's no green light. You guys hearing me at all? I'm not hearing a reply. Somebody ask. Let me write it in. Yes, so Mauer, you are hearing me. Okay. All right. I don't know why there's no green light on it. You know me, I have bad luck with technology. It's not that I'm necessarily screwing up. It doesn't seem, it's like I'm like one of those people that walks under streetlights and they all start exploding. That hasn't actually really happened to me, but it's like that with technology. Me, sometimes things just don't go right. All right. So let's get right to the news. Let me take this off the air. And I'm not going to have Margaret here with me tonight. She's busy in her tennis competition today. So what I'm going to do is, it takes hours to actually prepare slideshows and all that stuff to get all this ready and have a script for it. I mean, it really takes hours. So I have to do it an easier way. Otherwise I'd be investing way too much time for way too small of an audience. So I bought up a subscription to CNN, and obviously have some other news sources lined up. So we'll be able to go through CNN's, and they obviously have their own political bias, but we'll try to avoid articles that would show that. And notice I didn't buy a subscription to Fox. I don't want bias from either side. All right. What we know about the fatal stabbings of Rob and Michelle Reiner and the case against their son. 2 days after Hollywood director Rob Reiner and producer Michelle Singer Reiner were found dead in their home, their grown son, Nick Reiner, was charged with murder. He was in his 50s in the deaths of his parents. Many aspects of this case are still uncertain as authorities keep details close in an active investigation. But the deaths of two Hollywood fixtures have upended the entertainment industry as colleagues, friends, and fans pay tribute to their legacy. Reiner appeared Wednesday in a Los Angeles courtroom where he did not enter a plea, and a judge ordered him held without bail pending an arraignment scheduled for January 7th. Here's what we know about the case. The charges include a special allegation of using a knife, and the case rises to a special circumstance first-degree murder case, as there were multiple murders. So there's the special circumstance. Is that because it's multiple murders? Is it why, what is the basis for the first degree premedication? So for instance, the Reiners were found dead in their bedroom. If the butcher knife was taken from the kitchen, that would be evidence for first degree, because that would be, he made a decision to kill them. This is hypothetically. I don't know anything, nothing's been reported on that. That's it. We don't really know much else about this case. They had been at a party, Christmas party that night, I believe, at Conan O'Brien's, full of celebrities. And it sounds like at that party, Nick, the son, wasn't getting along with his parents or with other people. So, that could have been what triggered him. Supposedly he had been clean of drugs for 6 years, but who knows? There's always a high risk of falling back. Now, there are some true crime stories too. There's an MIT professor. Let me pull over to this one. I have to switch to a different. So an MIT professor was killed in Brookline. I mean, it's awful if anybody's killed, but it does hit home a little bit of an extra loss when you have some of these scientists that are of such brilliance that they're going to potentially change the world. Again, it's for any one of us to get killed, it matters, but it matters a lot. All right, MIT professor shot, killed in Brookline home. What we know about the Boston area attack. And we'll get to some more on the Brown University shooting too. Authorities are investigating the death of a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor after he was found fatally shot inside his Boston area apartment. Nuno F.G. Luniero, 47, died at a hospital on Tuesday morning after being shot on Monday night inside his apartment in Brookline. This is the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. There we go again. So Boston is Suffolk County, but Brookline is, even though it's adjacent to Boston and considered kind of part of Boston, it's its own town and it's part of Norfolk. Officers with the Brookline Police Department arrived at the 3-story apartment building after receiving reports of a man shot at his home. And Luniero was pronounced dead Tuesday morning. Here's what we know. The shooting took place in Brookline, an affluent suburb. So this is, I used to have a girlfriend that lived in Brookline, and it is an affluent suburb. If you get close to Alston, you get a little bit. It's not that it's not affluent, but it's a little bit closer to Alston type of neighborhoods, where the 3-deckers are packed closer together. But I've never been in a part of Brookline that's not really nice. In fact, I like those parts of Brookline that are closer to the city, because cool places to hang out with Boston College bars and stuff like that when you're younger. It's being investigated as a homicide, and no suspects have been taken into custody. This remains an active and ongoing homicide investigation, said the Brookline chief of police in a social media post. In fact, I just recalled a woman who used to work for me at my bar works for the Brookline police, and I think she's the media spokesperson too, but it's not this person quoted here. In order to project the integrity of the investigation, we are limited in the information we can share at this time and ask for the community's understanding and patience. While we investigate this incident, we will have dedicated patrol cars, officers, and unmarked units in the Gibbs Street neighborhood. So they've obviously learned a little bit from the mistakes that Providence made and saying that they had the suspect. So they don't want the city on edge, but what they've said here is we'll have extra cars in that neighborhood. So I think that's a smart approach. Luis Cohen, who is Linero's upstairs neighbor, was lighting a menorah or a candle on Monday at around 8:30 p.m. when she heard multiple gunshots. Upon opening her door, Cohen reportedly witnessed Linero lying on his back inside the apartment building's entrance and called 911. She said, "I can't sleep now. This family is so amazing. I can't imagine anyone wanting to kill him." Linero joined MIT in 2016 and was appointed to lead the school's Plasma Science and Fusion Center last year, where he aimed to research and expand clean energy technology. So that's like they're probably studying fusion and stuff like that, fusion reactions. The center stands as one of the school's largest laboratories and had over 250 researchers, staff members, and students. Let me just check and make sure my mic is still coming through because I couldn't see the screen while I'm reading the article. Hi, staff. Nobody's saying the mic is out, so that's good. Hey, Brett. Hey, May Britt. And hey, Michelle. All right, so the mic is still good. All right, thank you, guys. All right, we'll see if there's anything else in the news on MSN before we go back to CNN. Celtics Brad Stevens said general manager gives a massive injury update on Jason Tatum, but I've already read that and it's not really massive. It's just basically saying they're not putting pressure on him to come back for the Celtics this year, but they're leaving the door open. The Y Files. What if aliens are already inside America's deepest spaces? The Y Files is an entertaining place, but it really shouldn't be up here with hard news. Footage captures person of interest in the Brown University. All right, we will get to that soon. Elon Musk says your six-figure salary will disappear as AI makes money obsolete. This is one of the great worries about AI. All right, so let's go back to the CNN and see if there's anything more interesting there. See if my subscription was not for nothing. And obviously, while I'm going over these pages, I can't see the chat. So if you're giving me a suggestion for a news story that you want me to cover, I won't see it, I'm afraid. But then I will be back eventually after I get through these, and I will be able to go to stories that you want me to see. All right, so let's see here. Dan Bongino plans to step down as FBI director, and there's not really much of a story there. His focus was trying to get the pipe bomber arrested, who had placed pipe bombs outside both the Democrat and Republican offices during the January 6th protests, attacks, whatever you want to call them, a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now. And now that there's been arrests there, all the more reason to understand why he's stepping down. He also he was a very successful podcaster, but also he came down with cancer just a couple of years before he took this job. So he may be thinking about that too. U.S. government admits Army and air traffic controller failures in deadly midair collision near D.C. You remember when the plane crashed into the helicopter last year? I mean, it just seemed like common sense that helicopter flying up from bases should be nowhere near where those runways and where those takeoffs are. But yet, apparently, they do it all the time. It seems kind of crazy. U.S. government now admits failures by the pilots of an Army Black helicopter, so failures by the pilots and the controller, in the Reagan National Airport Tower during the January 29th midair collision, which killed 67 people. The United States admits that it owed a duty of care to the plaintiffs, which it breached. So they'll be getting a lot of money, as they should. The concession in the 200-page court filing is an unexpected admission from the military as the National Transportation Safety Board continues its independent investigation of the crash. So that's refreshing. This is one of those rare examples where the government did the right thing, even when it cost it something. Discovery of ancient bee nests in fossils points to a never-before-seen behavior. Well, you know I love science. Should we take a look at that? Let's take a real quick look at it and see if it's... I know Maui loves science too. Well, that looks like actually a bone there. All right. Contrary to popular depictions of bee nests as large, intricate hives that hang from trees, the majority of bee species, about 90%, are actually solitary. That is surprising. They're not 90% are solitary, not social. All right. And actually, they are actually solitary and build their nests in the ground or within rotten logs and the stems of plants. But researchers recently discovered what is perhaps one of the most peculiar nesting spots inside a limestone cave on the Caribbean island of Hispaniola. A hoard of fossilized bones, some from now extinct animals, was home to tiny ancient bee nests built within the empty tooth sockets. So they built it within the skeleton, basically. But it does seem not completely surprising when you consider the shape of the bone is porous and it's something that the bees could work with to dig out and build their homes. All right, so that's interesting a little bit, but I'm not going to go on with it. Trump orders blockade of sanctioned oil tankers to and from Venezuela. So, they're trying to. We can argue about whether it's. All right. Let's see if that's why it's. Let me try. So you guys have been listening to my computer mic, which is not very good. This should sound a little bit better. Let me make sure it's on the right. Yeah, it is on the right thing. This must sound better. Hi, Shamina. Hopefully this sounds a lot better. Yeah, this was just going. That's why the light was off. It was going through the mic that was just on my laptop, which is far enough away from my mouth and it's not very high quality. So hopefully this sounds better. AJ is the attorney of Nick Reiner, yes. And we saw him for the first time in court, although Nick Reiner was not in court with him. He was excused out because his lawyers didn't want him to be seen. He was wearing a suicide jacket, to prevent him from committing suicide. And I agree that someone should not be shown in a courtroom where there's going to be access to pictures that will portray him him or her, the defendant, in a bad light. So I do actually agree with that. There's there would be no need for that. I have seen a artist rendering of it, so there must have been court reporters allowed in there, that could do a rendering of him when he came in. But I do agree. I don't see why you couldn't put the suicide coat on him after he leaves the courtroom. But it's not that I'm sympathetic for Nick. It's just a matter of protecting all of our rights, because any one of us could be in a situation where we're falsely accused of something. And those things are important to protect all of our rights. Hesketh says the Pentagon won't release the full video of the follow-up strike. So I have no problem Well, I don't have a problem with the strike. There's no question in my mind that they are attacking drug dealers. The issue with it is, as a constitutional matter, only Congress can declare war, and there's no court order here. So it seems to be an act of war. And so does the White House need to go through Congress? However, there's a long history of this, including Barack Obama, who had drones who were attacking sometimes even American citizens, but certainly terrorists or people that they identified as terrorists. And these attacks were by drone in other countries, and innocent people were killed. They would attack the terrorists in the car, but anybody who was in the car, including his family, would die. Now, none of that had an act of congressional approval either, and it didn't seem to bother the people that are bothering this now. But that again, that doesn't mean that it's not an important issue, because I do think it is. Just in the long run, we have to really settle out on just what powers any White House has, and it has to be the same for every White House. We need to be somewhat consistent here. Let's see. Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell launches a hail bid to wipe away her conviction. Maxwell, the former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein, is making another effort to overturn a conviction for child sex trafficking and other crimes, with new court filings Wednesday claiming evidence has emerged showing that she did not receive a fair trial. Maxwell's latest maneuver faces extremely long odds and comes after her previous bids to challenge her conviction were rejected by courts, including the Supreme Court. Having run out of typical avenues for appeal, Maxwell is now using an unusual legal mechanism known as habeas petition, which seeks extraordinary relief from a court. Her admissions with the federal court in Manhattan were also filed pro se, meaning that they were filed by Maxwell herself rather than by her attorneys. So she no longer seems to have the support of attorneys on this. She argued that there were a number of flaws in her prosecutions that have not been addressed by courts, pointing to evidence she claims has newly surfaced with various investigations, legal cases, and media reports. The newly discovered evidence referenced above is such that according to her, that when taken as a whole, it constitutes a miscarriage of justice, that the petitioner did not receive a fair trial. So, I mean, the defendant, without lawyers, is petitioning to higher courts using as evidence news articles. That's not going to go anywhere. All right, let's see. CNN investigates for subscribers. All right, so looks like access to something new here. Maybe I'll have something that you don't do, and therefore maybe it'll be worth watching. We'll see. But it just went right to an article. It didn't come to a listing of articles. How a major convenience store chain hub for crypto scams. Well, that doesn't sound too interesting to me. I guess this chain is called Circle K. I'm trying to roll down to another article because they don't list articles here. It's just, I'm assuming there's another article at the end, but maybe there isn't. Maybe you just get one article. Yep. Looks like that's what you get. Very strange. They obviously must have older articles, but they don't list them anywhere. Well, you live and you learn, right, guys? On the top stories, GOP centrists choose the nuclear option to fight with Mike Johnson over Obamacare. So it is an interesting story. So 4 GOP congressmen are kind of flipping ranks to work with the Democrats, not because they're liberals, but because they know that if no compromise takes place, then dire consequences for healthcare in terms of cost for everybody. Now, people can debate the merits of it. They can debate whose fault that is, and both sides share it. But at this point, it is the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So it seems like they almost want this to happen for some reason, and I don't know why, because it would be political suicide. If all of a sudden everybody's health insurance rates goes up 200% next year, that's political suicide. So I don't really, it seems like what these 4 congressmen are looking for is some kind of a compromise, which with reforms that they put in gives money into this budget for the next 2 years. This was money that was originally, so Obamacare wasn't working by the time of the pandemic, and money was put in during the pandemic to keep it going. And now we're dependent on that. And Congress hasn't really figured out, or the White House hasn't figured out, or nobody's figured out how to fix it. So this compromise would fill up that budget for the next couple of years at least, and no one would have to worry about it, in exchange for having some reforms that they get into it. That seems like I'm glad those 4 congressmen are doing that. That seems like a reasonable compromise. And this is the third article is the same story. House GOP leaders plow ahead with plan that will allow Obamacare subsidies to lapse. So they may still lapse, So it's this is only 4 GOP members in the House. So the rest of the House they're very hardliners, and they're willing to let it lapse. And it's kind of like whatever happens, be damned. I don't know if they don't understand or they just don't care. And there's a point where principles aren't really principles when they're so hard-headed that they no longer are principles. They're just kind of ideology and dogma. All right, let's go to the new enhanced video, a person of interest in the Brown shooting.
John, we just saw this newly released enhanced video. Police asking people to pay special attention to how this man moves, his posture, the way he carries his weight. How might these details help police generate more leads?
Well, somebody who's familiar with him, somebody who works with him, someone who knows him might be way more likely to recognize that than someone who passed him on the street. But we also learned some things in this press conference. I mean, the chief told us, for instance, that they tracked him moving through that neighborhood as early as 10:30 in the morning, probably a good few hours before this 4 o'clock shooting. Then they have him moving in that specific area in a circuitous route for around 2 hours before the shooting, sometimes walking slowly, sometimes breaking into a run.
You might wonder why Ring Video was able to capture this here when in other cases it is not. And the reason is distance from the street. These houses are set very close to the street, close to the sidewalk.
So the chief's speculation on that point was, we believe he was casing the area, casing the right way to get in, perhaps casing the most effective getaway route, maybe even looking for where the cameras were or were not, but clearly disguised or wrapped up in such a way that whatever cameras he passed wouldn't be that productive, what we're going through now. So it raises questions about why that target. Why did he approach so slowly? Obviously, he left more quickly, but what was the motive behind an attack where he went to so much pre-operational planning, surveillance, walking around to open fire in there, and then leave without leaving any apparent message about what this was for?
Right. So it's still, unfortunately, pictures that don't really
This morning, 4 fed-up House
give us a very clear image, but it does give us an image of his walking style, his gait, and maybe someone could identify him through that. And I think someone that knows him very well, a family member, a friend, someone that, a classmate that is currently a classmate, will be able to identify him. And that's how these cases tend to be solved. It's not, the real world is not like a TV show where there's a whole bunch of brilliant police activity. This is, there's only so much you can do. And you often rely on people coming forward and saying, yeah, I have information. Normally that's how it is. And I saw your comment, Pat. The reason I hold the mic is for you guys, because actually it's a better sound quality. And so if you look at like any podcast or show, or even a radio show like Howard Stern, they speak very close to the mic, and it's much better. But I'm in a room with this chair that has a heating pad on the back that has come to be much more comfortable for me. So when I'm in the other room, I do have an arm that holds the mic, so I don't have to hold it. But I leave that arm set up there. It's not, so there's no way to set one up in this room, and I wouldn't want to move it anyways. So for me, it's easier to have this heating pad on my back and still be able to hold the mic. Maybe it looks annoying to people out there. I'm not sure. Trump expands travel ban list to 39 countries. President Trump on Tuesday signed a proclamation expanding the list of countries with full or partial travel restrictions to 39, increasing from the previous list of 19. The proclamation adds 7 new countries to the full travel ban list: Laos, Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, South Sudan, and Syria. Of course, we just saw a couple of Americans, National Guardsmen, get killed in Syria because it's an ISIS hotbed. And that's why our troops are there, basically because of ISIS. The expanded list also includes 15 new countries facing partial restrictions: Angola, Antigua, Barbuda, I don't know what that is, Benin, Côte d'Ivory, that must be like Ivory Coast in Africa, Dominica, Gabon, the Gambia, never heard of that one, Malawi, Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Tanzania, Tonga. We have a guy named Tonga on the Patriots. He's a great player. Zambia and Zimbabwe. Those were not easy to pronounce, Tom Fleming. So Jimbo says he thinks that the killer in Providence scoped the area for weeks, not the same day. So then that begs the question is, why was he acting that way, kind of moving around? Was he looking for someone else? Was he looking for a particular target, perhaps? Or was he not working alone and he was waiting for a partner or looking for a ride or something? What was it? Why was he moving around that way? Any theories? None of those are on Thomas's future travel list. Well, you're not allowed now anyway, so. I bet Allison would go there if some rare art was discovered. She'd probably get an exception. Not that Tom would let her. All right, let's see if we got any other stories of interest going on. Oh, this is all right. This is a sad one, but got to show it. This is from the New York Post. And it shows the heroism of that older guy and his wife now in Bondi. So this guy, we'll get through the commercial. He confronted one of the terrorists who had just pulled over his car and was getting put up an ISIS flag in the windshield. And so this guy, who was in his 60s, went after him and was temporarily able to stop him. But then at the end of the day, couldn't control him. And the guy now, as a result, shot both him and his wife and killed them. I don't know how long this commercial will be. Oh, maybe we get it here. See, I'm not even sure if this is the same guy from the other day. I think there may have been 2 different incidents of heroism, but I'm not 100% sure. So you can see, look at the age of this guy. You know, he's in his 60s, and there's his wife there. She's in her 60s, and he's tackled the guy and he's got the gun. And sadly, that's them there at the end after they're both dead or dying as a result of what the terrorists did. And there they are there. You know, a very grandfatherly, grandmotherly looking Jewish couple, when the moment required, became heroes. And who knows, their actions probably saved lives too. There he is there, and you can see the ISIS flag on the vehicle. I'll see if I can get the video for you guys. Okay, looks like I got it. Give me 1 second to bring it up for you. Okay.
Video just into the newsroom showing what are two more heroes confronting one of the gunmen, a man in a purple T-shirt. They began their deadly shooting rampage. And a warning, some viewers may find these pictures confronting. In the beginning of this clip, you can see a man in a purple T-shirt falling to the ground along with one of the gunmen. And we understand that the couple got out of their car and confronted the shooter as they got out of their car carrying their rifles. The man in the purple shirt then takes the gunman's weapon and falling to the ground. You can see it there from two different angles captured on car dash cam. And sadly, in later vision, which is too graphic to show, the couple are seen being shot dead by the gunman. The first of the victims from this bloody rampage, this terror atrocity unleashed in Bondi. That new vision showing the terror attack beginning on Campbell Parade prior to these two gunmen getting on the footbridge and shooting into the crowds gathered.
All right, so it's not exactly clear how it went down there, but one thing that is clear is that these two people were driving in traffic. Their lives were not in any danger at all. They see this guy getting out of the car with the gun. They could just hit the gas and they're gone. And they're just watching this on TV like everybody else is. But he made the decision to get out of the car and confront this guy. And the wife got out too. So they're both heroes. And I don't know if the terrorist pulled out a handgun and shot him. It seems, you know, maybe he did, but I it's not clear in the picture. So I don't know. Just looking through the comments, see if there's anything else that's caught you guys of interest. Kitty says the brown shooter has a very distinctive walk and mannerisms, hands behind back. That's good. Yeah, that's a good observation. One hand in a pocket at times. Yeah, those are pretty distinct traits. You have good eyes to pick that up. And let's see if we got anything else on here. Go back to the New York Post, which is loaded with pop-ups, but it's free. Skydivers plunge to their death after parachutes tangled. I've done this. I've jumped out of a plane, and it was worth doing. But I hate to see that, obviously. Champion bodybuilder Wayne Kun, who boasted about living a monk's life, is dead at 30. So I guess that didn't pay off for him. Due to a heart problem. You know, that's too bad. But this is, extreme training can put stress on the heart too. No, he was definitely in good shape, but doesn't mean that getting in shape is bad for you. Hero cop. So I guess the hero in that video in Bondi was actually a cop. So he did his duty as he understood it. And this actually might be not the same guy as the one we just watched with his wife. Detective Senior Constable Cesar Barraza is believed to have shot one of the alleged gunmen at Bondi Beach. So there was more than one hero that stepped up. And the thing is when you're in those situations, you don't know if you have it in you to act heroically until you're in that situation. You may think you do, and maybe you do, but nobody ever knows until they're in that situation what they have inside them. I can absolutely tell you that from experience. All right, let's see if we have any other stories in the science world. I'm on another page looking. New issue, Lost in Space. There's one of our crafts is Lost in Space. Not really worth clicking on that, I don't think. Time might not exist, and we're starting to understand why. AI language bots tell us what to think, but what comes next will think and act for us. So this is when you hear the term agentic AI, this is the next level that they're looking to develop, where your artificial intelligence buddy will be the artificial intelligence that you communicate with, whether it's Copilot in your Edge browser, or if you sign up for ChatGPT or Google's Gemini or one with Facebook or Elon Musk. They'll have agentic powers. In other words, they can act for you. They can call up your doctor and make an appointment. There's a lot of powerful things that they'll be able to do if you enable them to do it, if you authorize them to do it. But this is also when you get AIs that can act like that, at some point, you don't have very many need for human jobs because the AIs can do most of it. So that's the potential tragedy of it. Hopefully it doesn't work out that way. right. So I'm just coming back to see before we call it a night, since I don't have much to talk about, see if you guys have anything in chat that you want to hit on. I know that Anonymous Mass Lawyer has another article out. It's pretty short, this one too, but I'm not going to hit it now. You know, and I read through one of his older articles from July, and it talks about pretty much many of the same things you've heard me talk about on the channel. But it's a very effective article, and I don't really understand how any person with a fully functioning mind could read that article and not be convinced. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't say that with anger, because I know there are probably plenty of good people, but I just don't understand. And I don't know where he got access to those documents, Liz, but I wish, if somebody out there has them, please send them to me. leadskev@gmail.com. Probably not, Thomas. It's too late. Because I don't want to even commit myself to having to stay up until the end of that game. I will, but there will be a point where I may switch to going to bed and watching it from the bedroom. But I was thinking, guys, about doing a watch party game during Pat's game sometimes. I thought about doing it this past week. Not where I'd be on the screen all the time, but where those of us that are Pats fans would be able to at least comment about it in chat, and maybe I'd come on at halftime or something like that. So you guys can, most of our audience is probably not sports fans, but if there are, and I get enough positive feedback, we'll do it. We'll try it. I know Tom is. We also have an audience that's international. We have quite a few good healthy percentage that's from UK or Australia, so they probably would not be interested in American sports like American football. But if they are, or if enough people are, just let me know. It's basically just giving people a place to talk. If they're Patriots fans, express their frustrations or their celebrations, as it may be. And there was a lot to celebrate in the game early Sunday until it went south. Anybody else have any other questions, or anybody they think that might be important to bring up? Oh, Miami bench too. I didn't know that. Jimbo. Yes, I think that would be a good thing. They don't play well without him, and they've had kind of a rebound in the last 7 or 8 weeks, although they lost the last couple of games. And taking Tua out, yes, that does potentially help the Patriots a lot in the last game of the season, which will be very meaningful. It's likely to be very meaningful to the Patriots. And I'm hoping that the Miami also, they released Matthew Judon, the defensive edge, and I'm hoping that the Patriots sign him. I think that will be worth it. Stephanie's a Pats fan. Hey, Steph. Hope everything is well. And you know what I mean. I just can't say it specifically because, but that was good news, and hopefully everything is still going well. Pat says the Patriots are going to rebound 27 to 21 against Baltimore. I hope so. It bothers me the way teams are running on the Patriots at will now, and Baltimore is a running team. So I don't know. Oh, and Cindy found the sweatshirt. Good for you. You're probably shocked at the price. I know I was, but so today is the 17th, which makes it what? Almost a week before Christmas. the 18th. So tomorrow would be a week before Christmas. And we will be on tomorrow morning. The team back in action, Margaret McLean and Jen Coffindaffer, to go over to cover the impact statements in the Brian Walsh case and the sentencing. So we'll be on in the morning. I think that'll all wrap up in the morning. I know the feeling, Steph. Slightly different reasons, but I know the feeling. Tom is enjoying the balmy weather of St. Croix right now. Not too far from the equator. We're enjoying our couple of inches of snow and our freezing wind. All right, let's call this a closed rodeo. As you know, I just want to do these impromptu news shows kind of just so that when the day comes that something important is going on in the world, you can come here to talk about it, and you can come here for objective, rational opinion. And it's not going to grow fast, but it will grow. And I think it'll grow a little bit when we have something like that, because you guys know I'll be calm and objective and telling you what's going on. And we have very smart people like Maui and Tom Fleming and our Joe, the other moderator here, that are checking out news sources and information and feeding us in. And you guys will all be feeding us in stuff. So we will be verifying things as best we can and just talking about it calmly and rationally, which isn't always what everybody wants, but sometimes it's what's needed. It's what a situation calls for, right? So Emma, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Michelle, hope to see you before Christmas. Cindy, have a good night, and let's end it there. Have a good night, everybody.